Settle down, as they say in sport. Right. You're going to hear 9 people talk, and I say in advance that it's only going to be 5 minutes each, so it's not going to be too awful. And then there's going to be a break in the middle. And this is a very interesting looking receptacle. And Sam will talk about this, but he's hoping to set up a martial arts, that's right Sam, isn't it?
That's right.
A martial arts, I can't find it now, festival in Nablus, and we need to raise some money for that, obviously. So if people feel inclined to give us some money, this is the receptacle for Right, okay. As I said, there's 9 of us. One person isn't arrived yet, that's Anne, but she's coming from Arundel. I'm wondering if the weather's a bit bad on the west side. But anyway, right. I want to tell you about the project and why Nablus. And it's nothing particularly planned at all. Basically, my background is language teaching and a teacher trainer. And a few years ago, our eldest daughter went to live in Sri Lanka. And some people know this story, so please bear with me, I'll make it as short as possible. And I thought, I can't justify going to Sri Lanka just doing nothing. I mean, initially I could, but then I thought, no, I can't. And we got involved with a politician guy who was in charge of education in the east of Sri Lanka, northeast of Sri Lanka. And I said to him, do your teachers of English need any help? And he said, yes, it'd be great. None of them have ever left Sri Lanka, which is quite a common situation for a lot of people who teach English in Palestine. And there are a lot of parallels. Anyway, and so we set up this teacher training situation in Sri Lanka. Kate, wherever she is, Kate came along with me, and we did drama stuff. And Kate, wave your hand to the people. Yeah. Okay. And we set that up, and then my daughter decided to come home, and I thought, well, what do I do now? I've actually enjoyed doing this, and what can I do now? And then I thought, I keep going to Palestine. I see the misery. I see well, not the misery, because you don't think of the Palestinians as being miserable, but the horror of it all. I just witness it, and I don't actually do anything physical about it. I don't do actually anything at all, really, except just come back and tell people that want to hear how awful it is. And by chance, I went to a talk. It was sheer chance by a lady called Miriam Atta that I hoped would be here today, but I think she has to be in London. And she is an Egyptian lecturer at Sussex, and she'd set up a European project in Gaza. And this was because they wanted to teach people that had learned Arabic, so there'd be Arabic graduates who would like to teach Arabic, but knew there was no chance in hell of ever getting out of Gaza or anybody coming in to be taught. So they decided to do it online, and they set up this fantastic project they had 12 students in the end, and they did teacher training on Skype, and it was so moving. And while she was giving this talk to basically MA students, PhD students, most of whom I have to say had no idea about Palestine, the guy, he was at the back on the Skype, Nazmi from a university in Gaza, and he answered people's questions, and they were so horrified to see the situation in Gaza, and there were pictures of the deprivation and the rubble and all that sort of stuff. So I said, at the end, I said, look, I'm not a student here. I've come here by sheer chance, but I'm really interested, and I know there's no way I can get into Gaza, but I would like to do something. And he said, when you get home, send me an email. I sent him an email when I went home. He immediately replied and said, I've got a contact for you in the West Bank. So I said, the only way I can do anything is in the West Bank. So he said, and he sent me this guy, Sohel's email. I emailed him, and he replied immediately and said, send me your CV. So I sent him the CV, told him what I'd done in Sri Lanka, and I said, if we can help in any sort of way, but basically I'd come as support. I'm not coming, like some settler or some colonialist telling you've got all our ideas. But anyway, so off I went. The journey to get to Nablus was pretty hairy because I'd lost his phone number and it was all terrible actually. But the moment I got to the university, once I'd found him, and someone told me there are 30,000 students in this university and you don't seem to know his surname, and it was a bit hairy. Anyway, I was literally taken into this lecture room and said, teach them, and I thought, well, what the hell do I say? So I had nothing planned. I hadn't expected this to happen. So they put me in this room and I said, look, I've come from Brighton, I'll tell you about Brighton. Do you want to ask me any questions? The only question you don't ask me is what? Your age, madam. So we had and then that was all right. So, and then I said to them, I was sort of running out of answering questions. So I said, what do you find difficult about teaching English? And luckily they said things that I knew that I could sort of, on the top of my head, do something about, and so I put them into little groups. So it was okay. I mean, it was a bit hairy. The whole situation had been a bit hairy because I arrived in Nablus without a phone number, without a phone, without a contact. So, but anyway, it worked out all right in the end. And then, from then on, Sahel had a nice little programme for me. So I went to various places. I went to Jenin to do a teacher training course. 2 days. People have heard my stories about Jenin. Very, very funny. And when I came back and said some things that had happened, Sahel said, "Oh, they're farmers up there, aren't they?" And it was a bit like talking about people in Crawley, you know, if you live in Brighton. I thought it was a very similar sort of idea. Anyway, he said to me, "It's great you're here, but what are you going to do? Are you going to come back? Will you bring your friends?" And I said, "Right. I'll come back and I'll ask people to come." So, and I got 7 people to come. And I have to say, we had a ball. We really had a ball. It was hard work. It was intense. We saw a few things that weren't pleasant. We were in Hebron. And Sam might tell you about the young footballer. I don't know. But anyway, we were accommodated in university accommodation. They fed us till we burst. They were just so wonderful, and we had a really great time. Whether they learnt anything much, or I don't know, but I think the fact that we were there and we obviously loved them, I think that really came across. And one of Kate may mention in Hebron, a We Shall Overcome song.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Yeah, you're going to tell us about We Shall Overcome, but basically, we just felt their warmth and we were just so impressed with their level of education, the skills they had, which it was just quite amazing. And I think I've told a few people about the professor of drama who'd done drama at Warwick. And Kate and I went to one of his lectures and he talked about Shakespeare in a way, I mean, I did drama at university and Kate's an actress. I'd never ever heard of people talking about Shakespeare like he did. I mean, you imagine he's working in another language, and there's so many of them are such a high level of English. Anyway, so we are going again in 10 days' time. There's another 10 of us going within a span of a month. But I think it'd be very interesting. There's a couple of people who are going with us next time, and I think particularly for them it would be very interesting to hear of people's experiences. So I'm going to introduce you to Diane, who is going to talk about military court watch. And I'm going to have to watch the time very carefully.
All right,
5 minutes. I'll shout.
Like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
There's the map.
Annoying you.
Oh, I didn't say, sorry, there were 7 of us.